So I've got Brian Wang here today. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Good, good. I'm doing good.
Well, it's been a pretty wild and crazy day. Lots and lots of lots and lots of stuff going on. You
Mm,
posted this morning about the new Robotaxi fare system. Tell me
yes.
what your thoughts were about the new Robotaxi fare system.
So there's a flat rate thing to start off with, which I think was, around 75 cents. And then there's a buck 50 to buck 60 per mile, which looks like long-term pricing, right?
Okay.
Because it's about the range that I was expecting them to go with, because it beats um, both Uber, Lyft, Waymo, who are all tend to be in the $2 per mile range, and Waymo tends to be a bit higher than that. And we know that Uber can charge that and get $100 billion worth of business a year with that. And the ARK Invest feels that if you're in that buck 50th range, that the ride sharing market could get, five times bigger than, get up to the 500 billion level, substantially bigger than what Uber does, right? So in theory, then you can slightly adjust downwards toward the dollar to get toward the trillion or more of overall revenue. And then at 70 cents per mile, it's about how much it costs for people to own a car and drive it around, right? So
Right.
then that goes, if you get down to that, then you're like you're competing for the whole thing.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So, and this is now in effect in the Austin neighborhood, and that was the only major news I saw on Robotaxi today. Uh,
Mhm.
I think. All right. Then there was this whole business of the shareholders offer. So
Mhm.
we shareholders we think we might want to buy a chunk of XAI,
Yeah.
and the number that's being bantied about is $5 billion worth, and
Hmm.
this would come out of cash. But Larry Goldberg said on my program Monday night, and then he's posted at length today saying, no, don't take it out of cash. We need the cash. This should be a stock swap. So he wants to keep the cash for the Colossus, not Colossus, for Cortex, uh,
Hmm.
and for buying or funding the Robotaxi expansion, things like that. What do you
Hmm.
think? You think the Larry's got a point, or how do you think about it?
That's detail stuff that you know you're optimizing and that can matter, but it it doesn't really matter to me what they do it because we have like $36 billion in cash.
Right.
Fine. Using 5 billion, we drop down to 31, not ideal. So I'm not I don't really care that much. I just want the deal to happen and go through.
Okay.
Like before, when we first talked about this a year ago, back when XAI was worth, 40 billion or something like that, and now it's at 200 billion. Chunk of this thing is a deal, right?
Yes.
It is still a good deal. And some in the Tesla community are saying, hey, like maybe we don't need XA and all that kind of stuff. It's that yes, Tesla bot Optimus can and Robotaxi give us a lot of physical world AI, gives us labor, all that kind of stuff. But XAI is another significant pathway towards super intelligence.
Mhm, mhm.
So that matters. And right now it's at $200 billion valuation. It can easily go up to trillions, just like the things that are happening on the Tesla side, right? But having that all together is, in my view, a better thing. And so if we're at $200 billion, $5 billion would be about 2.5%. I would have liked to have gotten more of it. Um, but,
Maybe they'll give us a deal.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I also understand it's also about the value of the people and the team and those kind of things, and getting those people motivated. Because there was, again, talk about the huge offers from Mark Zuckerberg for people. So OpenAI, some people left and they created Anthropic. OpenAI talking about is in the valuation of $300 billion. Anthropic now is raising money at $170 billion valuation. XAI is in that 150 to $200 billion valuation range. Okay. So all these leaders of AI, when they're separate, are in the 300 to $200 billion range, 150 to $300 billion range level. Um, and then Mark Zuckerberg, some people left OpenAI, the CTO, Mira Murati or something like that. She left, CTO left when there was the thing where Sam Altman was kind of kicked
Right.
out and she was the other team. So then, once you don't kill the king, you have to leave kind of thing. So then she left and created a thing called Thinking Machines Incorporated.
Hmm.
There was Thinking Machines decades ago where they're making hardware, not the same thing, right? So some OpenAI people, some of the elite people left OpenAI with the previous CTO
Hmm.
to create thinking machines. Some of those people got offers, just like OpenAI people get offers, DeepMind people get offers, and they were offered $1 billion over 4 years. Did they take it? Did those people take? No, they did not take that offer from Meta, from Mark Zuckerberg, right? The kind of money that would just pop around for just the people, not even the whole company, just
Right.
people
Right. Right.
in it. So this motivating and keeping your talent is a significant problem for XAI.
Okay, so now on another note with regard to XAI and with regard to the valuations, should we buy it? It seems to me that what we're seeing now is that X X and XAI are starting to create a ton of consumer facing and business facing apps,
Mhm.
are use cases,
Right.
like the companions, like the video
Video.
creation. They're going to have a game creation piece. They're going to have tools.
Yeah.
They say they got an entire division now that's going after the business facing stuff. So, given Elon's history,
Mhm.
how long do you think it takes him before he passes OpenAI in revenue?
Um, I'm thinking quite certainly by the end of next year.
By the end of next year? Yeah.
Right, right. Well, one, OpenAI doesn't have that much revenue, right? Um, you know, 10 to 30 billion dollars ish.
Mhm.
And a lot of that I think is payments from Microsoft
Mhm.
to let them use their system and tools. But they can rapidly get more. It's
Right.
also like which one of these guys does deals with Apple and that kind of stuff, right?
Mhm.
So there's a bunch of levers there. Um, about 800 million people use OpenAI ChatGPT each month, and that's probably increased, heading towards 1 billion people. It's a big deal,
Mhm.
social media and other things to get to 1 billion
Sure.
people. Um, so about 600, 700 million people use X and XAI, but then not all of them use the Grok
Mhm.
and that kind of thing, right? But then really number two, because Google DeepMind, although their model is really good, um, they have a kind of like mix of Google search with Google AI, right? So that you do ask Google something and they'll give you an AI answer and then they also give you the regular search
Mhm.
answer,
Mhm.
right? But it's a question of usage, right? But they're presenting it to billions of people, right, who do Google search, saying, hey, also use our AI thing, right? So getting 600, 700 million X users who are using XAI and also tens of millions of people who use Telegram,
Right.
because they did a deal with them to use that, then um, XAI and X and Elon are in the mix of the top three in usage, right? Way more usage than Anthropic and the other
Right.
players, right?
Right.
So it's and more than Meta does, although Meta tries to shove their stuff in front of people. I don't think people are using the Meta version much. Um, so then how do they overtake and get more revenue? So also roughly today, yesterday, T-Mobile
Right.
for SpaceX Starlink is offering the um, the satellite, 650 satellites offering texting anywhere,
Right.
United States, Puerto Rico, other stuff like that.
Right.
Although I've heard that there were some issues. They worked before. Some people have had issues connecting, but they will get that solved. It is something, but they are offering it. Like I went to the movies,
Mhm.
and at the beginning there was the advertising. There was an advertising for T-Mobile.
Oh,
It
wow.
had the video, the commercial had Billy Bob Thornton,
Hmm.
talking about T-Mobile, and they talked about T-Mobile satellite.
Wow.
So T-Mobile had 100 million users, 150 million users, and then they've done deals with 6 or 7 other phone companies. So by doing texting everywhere, and they're going to charge $10 per month
Hmm.
for that.
Hmm.
I'm presuming $5 per month for T-Mobile, $5 per month for Starlink, roughly. So if they're the one dominant, because they're saying, hey, we have 650 satellites, they'll have of the 8,000 satellites, less than 10% have the capability to go direct to your cell phone, right?
Hmm.
But they're launching 2,000 satellites or more every year, so they can pretty rapidly get even more coverage.
Right.
And then, in theory, pretty rapidly get all phone companies to do this thing of like free texting, also um, internet and voice anywhere,
Right.
right? So if you have that capability and because by the end of this year, they'll have the internet and the voice part,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Then they're basically directly talking, communicating, helping potentially billions of people. Everyone who has a cell phone, a
Right.
regular cell phone,
Right.
could be using this thing. And texting is like short messages, like using X Twitter,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then the voice and the video and everything else can happen. So they can get into every cell phone. And also potentially they can create their own phone, you know,
Right.
make it their own, and they can then offer a complete standalone service if they get some spectrum. And particularly, they can light up 1 billion users in Asia and Africa, 2 billion users who do not have the connection yet. Say, hey, you can get a cheap phone, as cheap as China, make a $20 phone, and you can get a $10, $20 service per month, or $10 service per month
Right.
that can
Right.
give
Right.
you good enough connectivity for everything. Right.
Okay. Now then, 2 weeks ago we had the big day when Grok 4 came out, and all of a sudden we were at the top of all the leaderboards. But even in
Mhm.
2 weeks, now we're not at the top of all the leaderboards anymore. So, would you expect Grok to jump ahead again on all these leaderboards over the next few weeks, or are we going to run out of metrics to be even able to measure this stuff?
No, no, because some of the leaderboards have a Coke Pepsi kind of test of
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
check, do I like GPT-5? Do I like,
Right.
Grok 5?
Right.
And basically, there's going to be a GPT-5 coming out soon, a month or two. And then we know that within weeks, the 550,000 GPUs, B200s, which will give XAI 7 times the compute used for Grok 4,
Right.
will be activated. You will then train it in AI for 2 months, and then you will release a new version, right? So I'm expecting a Grok 5 to come out, whether we got end of July, so August, September, uh, um, late September or October. We
Wow.
should get a Grok 5 coming
Wow.
out, and that should be, I would think, 100 points better than what we have now. So that will leap our progress back to the top of the leaderboards, and also coming out with the multimodal versions. So that compute capability, where we got 100 times more compute than anyone else, that advantage will be useful to make it easier to be better than everyone else. It hasn't quite gotten there yet, but we're competitive even though we started 2 years later. So it is helping for sure.
All right. So Meta is going to build their own knowledge center or intelligence factory, knowledge
Mhm.
factory. They're not calling them data centers anymore. Knowledge factory that's going to be the size of Manhattan. We've
Mhm.
got OpenAI with their plan down in Texas. We've got everybody is, of course, trying to build, build, build. And now Elon has talked about 50 million. Is it 50 million?
H100 equivalent,
Yeah,
50 million H100
each
equivalents.
one
Yeah.
equivalents. So, according to your buddy Peter Diamandis, he said over the weekend that the problem is not going to be NVIDIA being able to make enough chips. It's going to be energy, which Elon said over a year ago that that's going to be the problem. So far, these guys seem to be very, very, very clever at coming up with ways to get energy. Do you think that they'll be clever enough to just keep doing that, or do you think that there's really going to be a day when it's going to be like, wow, and there's everything stops because there's no energy?
Okay, so several points to that. 50 million H100 equivalents, like we're gonna get early next year. You know, the so so right now the 550,000 GPUs, the B200s, that's a gigawatt,
Right.
right? So that's a huge thing, more than anyone else. Everyone else is about like 200 megawatts, right? Maybe 300 megawatts. And it's all in one building, not in multiple buildings. It's all training together. That's also a better thing,
Right.
having it all one shared memory. Next year, actually, part of by the end of this year, they'll finish installing another 450,000 GPUs to get to 1 million,
Mhm.
right? And that will take 2 gigawatts. They had to disassemble some power plant someplace in Europe and then rebuild it there.
Right.
Because there is a, for certain classes of natural gas power plants and turbines from GE and others, there's a 7-year waiting list.
7 year.
7-year waiting list to get your natural gas power plant turbine, right? But the ones who are already in queue, 3 years, two
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
they're Meta, Microsoft, all those other guys, right? Also, I'm sure they're willing to pay extra jump the line money to get theirs first, right? But there is a production backlog, right? Even if, and they are charging double, triple for this thing. They're saying, hey, if you pay me double, triple, I can only still make so many so fast, right? So there is this problem.
Right.
Thus, they need to be creative and say, hey, you know, something's already built. I want to, you're not using it really. I want to take it from you, and then you go to the back of the line, 5 years and get your next one, right? So yes, there's all that creativity, but there's only so much you can do there, right? But they're gonna restart every nuclear reactor they can, take over stuff, push things. So there's a lot of creativity that can have. I have looked in extreme detail at this,
I know you have.
but that will take time to go through. So bottom line is that yes, they still will have the power. The problem with Mark Zuckerberg saying, I'm going to have a 5 gigawatt thing, which could then take 2, maybe 3 million GPUs, right? Is that you have not yet got your 30,000 GPUs, your 60,000 GPUs working together, right? So yes, you say you want to do that and you have the money
Yeah. Yeah.
to make it happen. The
Right.
question is, how fast can you install your GPUs
Yeah.
and how fast can you get them all working together,
Yeah.
right? As well as the power. So there's the power, installing the GPUs. There's a bunch of things that have to go into the timeline of the thing. It's not like, and then it's there, right? It's like I got to build it, I got to install it. There's a bunch of stuff that has to happen. So they are still slower than XAI. Everyone wants to build 100 gigawatts worth of stuff, 200 gigawatts by 2030. And then every year in the 2030s, they will be wanting to throw on another 100 gigawatts and then scaling up probably, I think, beyond that to 200, 300. Because TSMC has said, we're going to increase our chip production by 10x
Right.
from now to 2030,
Right.
right? So they're going to sell them to everyone. It doesn't matter who they sell them to, they have to sell them to everyone. But each one needs 2 kilowatts of power to light it up.
Right.
Fine, I got light bulbs, I got my GPUs, I got to light it up, right? And so I need 100 gigawatts per year to do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that is, we don't have it. There's all kinds of like the gas turbine backlog, this and that backlog. There's a bunch of stuff that has to happen. It's complicated. I have details around how to do it and which companies to fund and all that kind of stuff,
All
right?
right. My
So
last question in that realm is why, if there's supposedly hundreds of thousands of solar panels sitting in Chinese warehouses that aren't even being that aren't nobody's buying right now and nobody's using right now, why wouldn't one of them be using that avenue and buying those up and putting them in US warehouses and then trying to find some land to put them on?
at scale, building out solar has been slower. I can build a small 100 megawatt. I can maybe even build a gigawatt of power. But then, in order for me to use it for AI data center, I got to smooth it out with
Batteries.
10,000 megapacks or something like that,
Mhm.
right? So France in the 80s went to 80% electricity with nuclear power. They built 55, 60 nuclear
Right.
power plants
Right.
done, over 10 years, 15, 10, 15 years, right? Not 80, 15 years. Germany has been trying to build out solar for 30 years,
I
right?
see.
Starting from actually almost 40 years from like 1990. And you can say, okay, 1990 doesn't count, early 2000s doesn't count, that they were, um, solar technology wasn't good enough. They were, pushing along, not good enough. But it's been good enough for a while. And they're still like 40% solar and wind, and then 60% coal. And maybe they've gone to 50-50, right?
Mhm.
But it takes longer and slower than going to
Yes.
nuclear at scale,
Even nuclear scale. Wow.
right? Nuclear for France,
For
right?
big. Yeah. Yeah.
Or for, like China doing it all with coal, where they got like more energy than Europe and the United States combined, and
Right.
now twice as much. So we build a lot of coal fast. So solar, as great as it is, at scale and load adjusted, with firmer power with batteries. So at nighttime I got power and all that kind of stuff. It's
Hmm.
just it is not as fast. There's issues there, complicated. But basically, true scale with solar is not that fast. And so all the energy choices all end up taking about like $100 per megawatt hour, and they all take years to do, right? So
Interesting. Interesting. It'd be fun to dig into that more. And for those who really want to know a lot about it, there's some kind of book that's going to be out here in
yeah.
about 60 days. All right. So, and Brian will be writing about a third of that book.
Mm.
Okay, so then we have two deals that just got done by Tesla over the last few days. We had a chip deal and we had a battery deal. Thoughts on those two deals? Was this a really smart thing? Of course, it was Elon, so it probably was. But
Mm.
what do you think about these two deals?
So Samsung has been behind TSMC in terms of their high-end chips. Um, they both have been at the 3 nanometer node. The new deal in regards to 2 nanometer nodes for semiconductors. It's the size, the smaller the better. And so um, Samsung is trying to leapfrog TSMC with their 2 nanometer stuff. They started earlier in 2 nanometer. They're both working on it. And the new factories that Samsung is spinning up and getting a big client like XAI or Tesla, sorry,
Tesla. Yeah.
Tesla. It's Tesla for the AI6 chips is a big deal. So they'll start producing these probably like next year, get to scale, and then do it to 2023. So the big deal about this is that NVIDIA chips have all been at, I think, 3 nanometer, right? Even though there's super advanced, they haven't pushed on to the B200s because they want reliability, like small but reliable, right?
Mhm.
So they need the volume, right? I don't want experimental small volume stuff. So this volume fits with what Tesla wants to do, right? So 100 chips per wafer, making 100,000 wafers, then you would get to 10 million chips, right? So Samsung had the volume and they get to the leading edge. Like before, when there was TSMC, they were getting slightly inferior chips in terms of process to them. But now Samsung's giving them the very best and potentially competitive with TSMC. And because they're like top client, they are getting the best deal on it, right? And so the timelines align and they can get a lot of chips at this new 2 nanometer node, which would be superior energy efficiency wise, speed wise. The process of what they're doing is better than the 3 nanometer stuff that NVIDIA is doing. So they can leapfrog up. They'd be um, equal or better than the NVIDIA processes with TSMC. So it's because they'd be the biggest customer for Samsung, which has about 15% of the market versus 80%, on these particular things. Um, then they get the very best. They get front and queue versus TSMC saying, "Hey, I can't like slight NVIDIA here," right? So it was a hugely important deal that way to solve how do I get the latest, greatest stuff by going to the number two, who's pushing up against number one, against TSMC.
Right.
So that's hugely important, and the volumes work, and et cetera.
How about the batteries?
The batteries, $1 billion deal for more megapack LFP related batteries. So it's, $4 billion. It's a nice big number, but it's not, it's just helping to complete it. So I think some people like a Gary Black saying, uh, or someone else, Jim Chanos, who's shorting stock, saying, "Hey, I thought Tesla makes their own batteries." It's just like they're adding some more batteries to the mix, not even for vehicles, it's just for more megapacks. And megapack, they may need them for just for Korea, just for whatever. So like I can make them locally or do something. Anyway, so it's just an extra, I don't know, few percentage points to what we're doing there.
I see. All right. Okay. All right. Um, so, gee whiz. Oh, I know. Are you familiar at all with the WeRide folks?
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
they also a competitor like a Waymo over in China.
All right. And they have just been given nationwide license for Saudi Arabia to begin with pilot operations in Riyadh. And they already are in China, as you mentioned, the UAE, Singapore, France,
Yep.
and the US. Now,
Right.
where are they in the process? Are they able to drive without I mean, are they putting completely autonomous vehicles out on the road today?
So they again use the LiDAR process, same as Waymo.
Mhm.
So same as Baidu. Baidu's bigger. Rewires all over. I think they do a lot of uh, driver supervised. So if you order a thing, you most likely most of the time get a driver supervised.
I see.
Is that changing over the last few months? Um, I'm not clear. It's a matter of how good do they do the mapping? How aggressively do you want to roll out? The China companies want to roll out pretty aggressively, um, but none of them have yet broken through huge scale where they're like way bigger than Waymo. So Waymo at 1,500 cars. I think the number of cars, number of miles that Apollo Go is going to is, they talked about getting, way bigger than Waymo and pushing out faster. But they had not as yet done it. WeRide has talked about big expansions. They have not as yet done it.
Mhm.
Um, I'm tracking them pretty closely. So obviously they want to do it, but wanting versus executing,
Right. We had the Powell speaking, completely changing subjects here. The Powell press conference today. He never mentioned AI or its impact on productivity, which is deflationary, on jobs and jobs. Microsoft just came out with a list a few days ago showing 1.2 million jobs that they think are at risk, not at their company, of course, but 1.2 million jobs total, which are highly paying jobs that they say are at risk. Um, uh, it blows my mind that not only did Jay Powell not mention AI one time in the entire thing, but none of the press people ever raised AI either.
Mhm.
Is it your opinion right now that AI will be more important to the economy in the next 12 months than these tariffs are in terms of the
Yes, I
impact?
think, yeah, I think that they will be. Well, one, we already have a deal with the EU, Japan, UK, and we have a kind of deal with China,
Mhm.
right? So when they say, oh, inflationary costs to households, they say if no one had a deal, then it was maybe $1,600 or $800 per household for these things. But 60% of the world has already got a deal now,
Mhm.
right? So we're already at, 10 to 20%
Right,
tariff rates, depending on which country, for 60% of the world,
right.
right? So the 40%, mainly Canada, Mexico, and India, that have not got deals, is like before they're talking tough, oh, we unify. 60% of the world just said, screw it, we're going to make a deal, right? So 40% that's left, if they don't want a deal, then it's not just the US can make it internally. They can say, okay, instead of India, it'll be from China, it'll be from Vietnam, it'll be from Indonesia, right? We have or stuff from Canada, I can go get from Europe. Canada wants to send us whatever, we can get it from Europe. So there's other options now within the US trade sphere. So then the actual worst case impact of like, okay, these guys hold out, we're down to 300, $400. And it's switching things. And as you've discussed before, I think Lutz has talked about it, that if they try to hold out long term, then US companies will say, well, crap, I got to switch. I got to make the effort and switch out
Right.
because and I have options in the US, I got options in Japan, all the other places.
Yes.
And so then they will lose the American market. They can, which is nutty for Canada and Mexico, where, fine, the US, only imports, 10, 15% from each of them into the US. But for them, there's 70, 80%
Right. Right.
of,
They're
of
right.
what they want to sell, right? So they're totally blowing up their economies by doing that. Although, like how much trade dependence do they have? I think, anyway, so um,
So
yeah,
why do you think these, other than politics, why do you think that these supposedly great financial reporters have nothing, not one question on AI when it's like
mhm,
the biggest subject ever since the internet? I mean, and
right,
they don't, and tariffs, as Powell has said over and over again, is only price. It's not inflation.
right.
And jobs are impacted, which is half of the requirement that the Fed has. And
Mhm.
um, uh, productivity is one of the only two things that actually impact real inflation.
Because the economic reporters who track interest rates and other stuff like that, they in general are like, legacy auto or that kind of stuff. They don't get AI and that kind of stuff, right? So, and same thing, Powell doesn't get it. Like when it flows through, oh, it flows through. They can understand certain size of deals and stuff like that. But in terms of like, how does it affect labor and stuff like that, they don't get that. It's more at this pure financial mechanization level, right? So that's they don't understand it and they don't report. Just like, they don't properly report Tesla or Nvidia or anything like that. They just like give me your quarterly and then I will parrot it or not, and then say whatever. So that's the that reporting is terrible. And then for Jerome Powell, you know, not only does he not his concern about maybe something will happen with inflation and tariffs, and that didn't happen, right? So
Right.
far, it had not really happened,
Yes.
right? So his concern about that, either it was politically biased or he's just clueless as usual. And I think he's clueless.
And he said today twice, he said it twice. The base case for tariffs is that it's only price and
Right,
that it won't impact inflation.
right, right.
So the timing then, if the base theory is its price, we've seen nothing in the prices yet.
Right.
So now we would have to get to the place where price, and I think it will. I think it'll be 0.4 to 0.6% of the GDP, or I'm sorry, of inflation CPI on CPI. 0.4 to
Mhm.
0.6% will flow in. Okay, so
Mhm.
it hasn't flown in yet, it hasn't come in yet. So that's
Yeah.
going to be, let's say, in the next 3 months, we'll finally see it. Well,
Mhm.
then to find out whether it's having an inflationary effect, which is his big concern, which it's not going to, but he says that's what he's really waiting for. We won't know that till next year. So does that mean we don't get any cuts in the rates until next year because he won't know until next year whether it's impacting inflation?
Yeah. So I think that's a highly um, significant chance that that's the case, that they don't cut because he'll always look for excuses. And until he sees data, you know, old data, a month too old data that shows I need to do something like cut or not cut or do whatever. When the signal is super clear, then he'll chase it after the fact, right? Which is all this data dependence, wait and see means I don't predict or anticipate anything.
Right.
I wait until I'm forced to do it and then I do it, right? So that's a insanely bad policy in my view. I wait for the banks to break, I wait for stuff to happen, and then I will do something because and then after it's all over, I'll try and clean up.
Corollary to that question, when do you think we will start to see the productivity increases and the job losses from AI? Do you think it happens in the next 12 months? Or do you think it happens in the next 6 months? Or do you think it'll be longer?
Um, I think it does happen next year, but it depends upon the AI getting a lot better, which I anticipate to happen, right? So AI has to get a lot better. You have to have, things like Tesla Robotaxi at scale, like, things have to happen where we go next level. The activity of more of relatively the same, only a little better, does not drive the really big national level of job. Like, there'll be situations where it happens, 1,000 jobs here, 5,000 jobs here, 100,000. But to get to the millions of jobs, um, seeing that happen is less clear. Maybe the Microsoft stuff is right, but again, um, that is less clear. But I'm anticipating, you know, Grok 5, GPT-6,
Right.
Grok 6, the next level and super agents, simulation. And
Right.
then we can see it ourselves, in terms of like with Tesla, that when they get to millions of cars, it's like when we see that happening, then that's an indication that, hey, that'd be one of the first widespread applications where it's like you're taking out potentially millions of driver jobs,
Not only
right?
taking out jobs, but also increasing productivity a ton.
Right,
Yeah.
right,
So, but in the internet age, we had productivity increases. We had, some years where we had 5%, 6% productivity just in the internet age. And
right,
everybody that you and I follow thinks this will be bigger than the internet age. So it would just seem like
right.
we would start to see at least those productivity numbers come up, even if jobs, what seems to be happening now is that they're just not hiring more people. They're not firing people. So
So
that,
so in terms of like when we see it and when we know. So one, some canaries in the coal mine are the Tesla Robotaxi. The other thing is that when you call support or something, had it all gone to a really good AI where all your stuff is answered and you don't need to go to the human, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And that completely swapped out there. So, and then stuff on um, for lawyers and for accountants, where um, when you're doing searches and stuff like that, that's all gone to a fully satisfactory AI solution, right? So then you're not even thinking, should I use a human accountant?
Right. Yeah.
Should I use a human lawyer?
Yeah.
Right? Am I better to talk to a AI medical thing than a nurse or doctor? Right? When you see that happening, you will know that millions of jobs are being lost in that particular area.
Right, right, right. All right, that's
Right?
good. I like that. All right, last thing, because I know you got to go, and I'll
Yeah.
do the numbers tonight without you.
Yeah.
We have had huge beats from the Mag 7 companies
Mhm.
today. Microsoft has become the second $4 trillion company,
Mhm.
and Meta had a huge beat, and their stock was up, I don't know, 9% or something.
Mhm.
The overall earnings season is solid.
Yeah.
The economic numbers have been fantastic all this week. The
Yeah.
market is
Yeah.
flat like that. So is it waiting for more data, or is the market stretched too far and it just can't be stretched anymore at this point?
Um, it's looking like they're waiting for a significant next leg to happen. The fact that it's moved up, you said, like Microsoft to 4 trillion, they're just, I think, concerned that the news has to get even better for them to start taking up a notch. We're kind of like not totally surprised by this move. Like I think Dan Ives was saying Microsoft is going to go to 4 trillion, then go to 5 trillion, right, in valuation. And then Nvidia 5 trillion, 6 trillion. So his enthusiasm there was totally borne out by this. All the people who are saying counter that, and there's plenty, were wrong, right? And then, but they're doing a wait and see. They had wait and see on Nvidia for
Right.
2 years. Like 2 years ago, it was one third of what it is now, and they're saying, oh, it's already gone up, almost 10 times. Is it done? Is it over? I don't want to do a dot com internet bubble thing. Afraid about the bubble. So
Right.
because we're afraid about the bubble, it's good that we don't have a dot crash thing where things just collapse, but
Mhm.
then we're not getting ahead of it either. So it's that fear. There is dry powder, like still what, 6 trillion, $7 trillion
7
of money
trillion.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when does that come off the sidelines is unclear. Do we need to have a dip before that comes in? But at some point, it'll become very clear that the concerns are not founded of of a crash.
Right.
So again, if we get to the point where the millions of jobs are being replaced and all stuff like that, there'll be the tension of holy crap, Nvidia should be at 10 trillion, Tesla should be at 5 trillion, Microsoft should be at 6 trillion, whatever. And then the NASDAQ and stuff, which are heavy with those things, will move up. On
Right.
the other hand, other companies, other parts of the thing could be going down or not. Like it could be cutting people, saving money. So it's um, volatility. So up and to the right, but how volatile is it?
Right. Right. Ha. All right. Well, do you have time to stay for the numbers or you want to go?
I think I need to hop off.
All right. So
So,
just put it on mute and just leave it on because otherwise I think we'll mess up based on our
okay.
technological thing that we're doing here.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay.
All right. We'll see you. Thank you. Thank you as always, Brian, for coming on.
Okay.
All right. So what do we got here? We have got Tesla sitting at 318.05. So pretty much, I mean, it's down another buck compared to where it was at the end of the day, which was down 211, but it's not taking advantage. It's not going up like the rest of the market is going up in the after hours, as you'll see. So it didn't go up today, and it's not going up now. And again, now the market didn't go up a lot, but it did go up. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rest of it. So we have got just a second. I hit the wrong button. Okay, what we've got is we have got the bond market right now. We've got the bonds at 4.364. That is down 1.4 in the pre-market. So 4.364, it was down today, down some more now. So maybe this is the beginning. We'll see what happens. So if we can't get the Fed cut, maybe we'll get the bonds to finally have a rally and we'll get the cut there. We've got oil up another 37 cents, going over $70 to $70.37. However, there was a build in the United States today after a couple of weeks of shortfalls. And so maybe we'll start to see oil trend down again. But until the Russia thing the Russia thing could keep it up around $70 for a while, I suspect. Natural gas, $3.02. So it is really running into this barrier at $3. But it is down again this evening to $3.02 from $3.03 this morning. We have got gold sitting at 33.34. So if you like your gold to be always the same price, well, boy, it's been up and it's been down, but right now it's right back to our favorite little number by a dollar anyway. We've got silver definitely taking a dip today, $1.69 down back to $37. So it is definitely under some pressure. Copper came back down, but to where it was when the 50% tariff was put in place. It had gone up way beyond the 50% tariff thing when it was finally announced today that the 50% tariff was in place. Then copper came back down to this $4 and call it right now it's 4.52. So roughly though $4.50, which is where it was for like a couple of weeks after Trump first made the announcement that that was what he's going to do. Then we've got the dollar mixed. It seems like it's mixed most of the time. And we've got Bitcoin up a little bit, but again, when it's only up $700, I call that almost flat, 118,242. Again, it's been flat for a while now. And then we've got the equities, which are definitely responding. to the good news in the earnings. We've got the Dow up 0.13. We've got the S&P up 0.74. If it opens at 64.43 tomorrow, that will be an all-time high. And we've got the NASDAQ up a full point at 23,736. Again, that will open up. If it opens tomorrow, that would be an all-time high as well. So what is going to happen next? As everybody on the program has been telling you, we've got Tesla in a wedge, and the wedge is going to break one way or the other. My guess is it's going to break higher. I think, as I mentioned this morning, the reasons for that would be, one, everybody else has already done it, and so that people are going to be looking for this opportunity situation where there's a lot of upside and not very much downside. That is always the perfect thing to buy. That is not investment advice, but of course, it's what I've been saying all along, is we're going back to all-time highs. But I do believe it will be it will need stimulus, and the stimulus would be good news with regard to Robotaxi, with expansions in terms of the units on the road, expansions in terms of the amount of geofencing, expansions in the fact that they take the rider out of the car, or we hear about other states where Tesla's going to be able to set up shop. Things like that. And there's more. I won't go through the whole list. All right, so that's all I got right now, except to say that if you didn't already watch it, go on back. Earlier today, I did a show in the middle of the day, where I really went to town on JPOW. This was the worst presser I've ever seen with JPOW. It's the worst presser from the standpoint of the questions that were asked. It's the worst with regard to what JPOW is saying, with regard to his excuses and his reasons. It was a total rant. And I think there's so much there. It's chock full, just like Brian was just now, chock full of information that you may want to know about in order to be able to understand where the economy is and where it's going and what's happening with the Fed. And so I'll put that card right up there so you can go check that out. And then tomorrow we may have a very special thing. May have a different rebellionaire helping us out at the 5:30 hour. We'll have Sir Basher, as usual, in the evening. So tune in tomorrow and check things out. In order to do that, of course, you want to subscribe, notify, all that jazz. And maybe, it could be a Patreon day for you. Maybe you'd like to join Patreon. Hey, it's been great talking to you.